we are working on November Day 1. If we visit the November website, we'll find that the prompt for today is Alchemist Lab. And I'm going to go ahead and attempt to make this now. So what comes to mind for me is some sort of fantasy bottle sorts of things. I was doing a little bit of some research here, and I think what we'd like to do is make basically a procedural set of bottles that we can make in 2D, sort of similar to these ones. I might try and go for kind of that circular look, and I think what I would like to do is be able to drag a number of different sliders to interpolate between different types of bottles. Here are some other interesting ones. We've got like these triangles, got the circles. They all seem to have that stem at the top. And then maybe we could go for a little bit of kind of smoke haze sorts of things, and maybe also change the level of the liquid. Those are just some ideas that come to mind, but it's good to start out with doing a little bit of research first. So I will go ahead and start out, I guess, with just a shape. Here we are. That can be the beginning of the bottle. And I think the main thing I'd like to do is interpolate between different options, different styles. So I'll go ahead and make that stem as well, line those up. And I'm going to go ahead and join those together. So now they are grouped together inside of a layer that has a Boolean operation. And just in case you're new here, new to seeing Graphite, the way that that works is that this would be a normal group right now. This is how it was if I had simply grouped them. But by adding in the Boolean operation like this and attaching it right there into the group, now it actually gets Booleaned, and we're using this union operation. Okay, so I'm also going to get rid of the artboard. I think we can go ahead and remove that since we're mostly just prototyping at the moment. Okay, and then of course, since everything's non-destructive, I can go ahead and edit this after the fact here. Come up with whatever a bottle might look like here. Go back to the reference, and oh, that kind of maybe a little bit taller here. Yeah, okay. It would be good to maybe give this kind of a smoothing effect now. So I could try one option would be to bevel it, but that's probably not going to give us the result we want. Actually, that's not too bad. That's actually reasonable. And of course, I can increase the bevel amount. And if I do another bevel, and this is sort of approximating, oh no, right, yeah, we have a few bugs with the bevel option. But let's see. Actually, that bevel's not working quite. That bevel's very new, but it's not working quite as I would expect it to. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And maybe we'll just lean into the idea of that sharp corner. Another option here would be spline, but there are some improvements that we need to still make to spline as well. But yeah, just for demonstration purposes, I can go ahead and show that. Spline from points. And yeah, so that's not quite looking like we'd like it to. I think we'll work on improving the spline node over the coming days and weeks to make that look a little bit nicer, but that is an interesting effect. But I'll go ahead and get rid of it. So go back to here, delete the spline. All right. So I'd say this is one style of bottle, and I'm basically just going to go ahead and duplicate that. And now I'm going to come up with maybe a different style of bottle. So maybe like one of those triangle ones that we saw earlier. So if I get rid of the circle, maybe replace it with a triangle here. So I go to here, change it to 3 sides, and make that, and then delete the, yeah, here we are. Delete the circle, and we have a triangular bottle. And okay, what other styles of bottles do we want? So there's some, maybe some like bulging rectangular ones. So we can maybe, yeah, let's go ahead and simply draw a rectangular one there. And we can, oh, no, I drew it in the wrong spot. I want to draw it here. And then delete that triangle one. Okay, so that's our rectangular one. And I think we, of course, want those to be a lot skinnier. And maybe have a taller stem this time as well. We can give a taller stem to that one. Yeah, so now we can go ahead and bulge out those edges, I'd say. And one thing we could try here is we could try simply turning up the corner radius here. And that actually, yeah, that looks decent. Just like that, holding down Shift, which is the key that slows down the movement of this dragging left and right. Yeah, actually that looks decent. Okay, what are the styles? We're just going to go for a bunch of styles to start out, and then we'll start working on interpolating between them. So duplicate that, move it over. So what do we want else? What other types of bottles do we want? Actually, this very classic style here, that's kind of a neat one. I think we'll go for that. So that's kind of like a variation on this first one, actually. So let's maybe duplicate that. So basically that would just be kind of a larger one here. Align those up. And then I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is now I'm going to add a path node. This allows me to modify, oh no, I'm targeting the wrong one. I want that one. Move that to the top of the layer stack so I see them in order. Okay, so I'm going to add a path here. So that path node simply got inserted right here. And that allows me to now start modifying these. And I can simply double click. We do actually unfortunately have two there. I'll delete that one. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting effect, but let's see. We might want to do a little bit of manual tweaks here. Maybe make them a little more like that. Kind of just using the G, R, and S keys that if you're familiar with Blender has the same kind of keys. But I can also just move that up because everything is still non-destructive with those Boolean operations. Maybe a bigger neck would probably be good in this case as well. And a bit more of a lengthened taper, I suppose. Scale those down, move them up, scale them like that, and then move these out. The nice things you can do by having these symmetrical operations with G, R, S, and S to grab, rotate, and scale these. Same thing for these ones. Get them closer to each other, move them up a little bit. That's with G, Y. Yeah, not the most beautiful, but I think we might tweak it a little bit later. That's okay. But what does matter is we want the topology to be the same in all of these. So that's actually where the tricky part might come in. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and do these morphing effects. So I'm going to add a new layer at the top, and this simply adds a new layer here. And what I'd like to do is add a morph node and put that in here. And okay, so we're going to basically try and morph between, we're going to start out by morphing between the left two of them. The left two are here and here. I'm actually going to just kind of hide the other ones for the moment, make it easier to see, and I will put that one right there. So now it's above these two. So I'll basically just say morph between that one and that one. And the morphing percentage is controlled by this. If I pin that, it makes it a little easier. I can deselect everything, and now that option is always going to be showing up right here. Okay, so as we can see, we don't have quite the same topology in a ellipse. An ellipse that has basically a circle that has 1 point here, 1 point here, and 1 point here. That's 3 different points. But we actually only have 1 point here and 1 point here in the case of the triangle. So one thing I could do is I could just insert a point using the path node. So I guess I can go ahead and do that. So do it here, path. We do have to make sure that that path node is inserted at the expected location, specifically after the morph. So we actually want to go there. Move these out for clarity. Move that out to the left. Maybe that out to the left as well, just to keep it clean and visible. Okay. So that path node is now going to let us click on this, and okay, that's another bug we got to get fixed eventually. It's been kind of an annoying one, but okay, basically that may have actually done the trick, it sort of jumped, but it ultimately didn't matter that it jumped. Okay, there we are. Nice. Now we actually have a bit more of a proper morph because we have the proper topology. Okay, so we've got that layer here. We'll call that morph. And that is doing the morphing from one to the other. In fact, if I reverse the two, then the left to right sliding is going to be a little bit more correct here. Okay, so now from left to right, I can simply slide that, and yeah, we've got our bottle sliding. Neat. Okay. Actually, this is making me think that one way we could have done this a little bit nicer possibly would have been using a three-sided star, and because it's a star, we actually have these points in between, and that might possibly provide us even better results. I'm going to give that a quick try, see how that would look. If I put that in here, hide the original triangle, but then put that in here. I'm going to hide the morph for the moment, line these up, line up that and that, and then make it bigger. And we do have to put that triangle back now that we have the new triangle. Oh, wait, no. So we have that morph hidden, but I think the fact that we are seeing this little weirdness here, that may be the result of the Boolean operation? Or no, sorry, that's the path, exactly. Okay, so I had the path. That was the path node I used to originally add that dot at the bottom, the point at the bottom. Okay, so then if we return to the morph, we probably still don't have the correct topology here, but we're getting closer. So how many points do we have? I'm going to hide the morph again and look at the topology. So I'm going to add back a different path node. And the path node is what's used by the path tool. It modifies whatever is the most downstream path node. So now I can actually see what these points are. So we've got that point, and that point. Well, actually that point, that one, that one, that one, and that one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Before we get to this part where the stem connects to the bottle itself. Whereas in this case, yeah, we just have this one, and this one. So we do actually need to probably add a path node here that inserts a point there and a point there. So I'll go ahead and just do that to the original circle. So add a path node here, and it doesn't like it. That's because it's happening at the wrong spot. I have to reverse those. We have it happening here, but we got to put it before we flatten the vector shapes. Actually, why do we flatten? I didn't add that node originally. Somehow I think that node got added by the tooling. Okay. Here's our path node. This allows us to draw a little point there. I just click to insert it, and another one there, click to insert it. Okay, so now I think we can do our morph again. Okay, there we are. That's looking a little bit more interesting this time. I like that compared to how we had it before when we just had the triangle. Now that we have what is technically a star. Yeah, I'll delete that one. Okay, so we have this, technically it's called a star, but they have basically the same, like I can show how this would become a star, but the default configuration would actually put them all just so that they look like a triangle. Anyways, yeah, so we have one of these morphs working now. Let's move on to the second morph. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that one, and then also these, and then unhide these. So now we've got these ones to work with. Same deal, pretty simple here. We're just going to go ahead and make a morph. Do a little bit of cleanup while we're at it though, so we can stay sane. Okay, So we have our layer here. We're going to go ahead and add a morph again. I'll also pin that one so we can also control its slider whenever we have it deselected. And we're going to go from that to that. And it looks like this one's a little more messed up because we have the very different topology on this one. Okay, I'll go ahead and call that morph and then hide it for the moment. And take a look at what do we have here. Basically, we should look at the topology. So I'm going to add another path node. Okay. We've got a path node added. I'd say the next thing to do is, oh yeah, to add it to the other one as well. I'll do that first. Oh, what happened here? Oh yeah, it's right here. Oh, but we're not seeing it because we use it in multiple locations, and currently there's a unimplemented feature in the layer panel that'll make it so it shows multiple copies. So we'll just do it in the layer, in the panel here, in the node panel here. Add a node called path, and we're going to rewire this so it goes into there, and then both out to here as well as out to there. Okay, so now we can look at both of them and see what their topology is. So we've got I guess we have to count from the top now. So it's one around the edges, and then one in the center, and then one at the bottom, which is quite different from this one. As we can see, this has, yeah, so let me count that one. So I guess the common point would be like these being equivalent to these. So then everything below that, we just have 1, 2, and then a third one here at the bottom. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so unfortunately we have an even number on the left side and an odd number on the right side, but we'll just have to kind of fudge that a little bit. I think what we can do is go ahead and insert one here and one here. And I'm actually just going to see if we can delete that for the moment. Kind of make it look like it's flatter on the bottom so it actually can, yeah, let's lean into that idea. So I'm going to go like right there and right there and then delete the bottom. So that way it actually looks like it has a way of sitting on the ground. And now we actually have an even number on this side as well. And I'll go ahead and add one here and one here. So now we should have the same topology. And we can try that out, unhide the morph, and well, we have a little bit of a flipping action here, but I think if we change the start index to find wherever they, okay, that's a little closer, but it still ends up inverting it. So if we keep changing the start offset, we can maybe find where the indexes line up to one another. The indices, they line up. Close, but it still gets inverted. So let's keep looking for... I'm seeing a pattern here, so I don't think any of these are going to end up working, unfortunately. Let's double check we had the same topology. So total number of points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on that side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's the part. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, except we have this duplicate here. That's frustrating, but all we need to really do is delete that. Okay, I have it selected, delete it, there we are. Now we have the correct number on both sides. It would be good if the Boolean operation was able to automatically delete those every time, but it seems like it sometimes leaves those behind at the moment with the current implementation. That's why it's alpha software. So now we're going to try and line those up again. That looks a little cleaner. We just got to find the one that doesn't invert it. That inverts it the other direction. They all seem to get a little inverted. Okay, so I wonder if we could... Let's actually track what the points are doing. So like that one goes down to there at the bottom. And then ones on the left generally stay with the ones on the right. Ones on the left generally stay with the ones on the left. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's any way we can deal with that. Because apparently the offset here does not quite seem to do the job. Because while it allows you to line up the topology, it does not apparently allow you to realign when it sort of gets flipped like this. And that I'm guessing is because they have opposite winding orders, which makes me believe it would be useful to add a node that can reverse the winding order. We might do that. Okay. What operations do I have available to me? Well, I guess one is I can literally just flip this bottle around. Okay, so take the... Yeah, let's do this one. So you probably couldn't see that, but what I did was I just scaled it by -1 in the x-axis. And now, did that fix it? Ah, much better. Okay, that was actually a very easy fix. All we had to do was simply scale it to flip it around. Okay, so we have two morphs now. We've got the morph between the second pair of bottles, and we've got the morph between the first pair of bottles, which I'll go ahead and show as well now. So now I can go from there to there, and I can go from there to there. What I'd like to do now is basically bring this out to another dimension and morph between the two morphs. So I'm going to actually move these onto their own layers, onto their own rows at this point. So if I go select these two as well as its morph, and I'm actually going to name these bottles so I don't keep getting confused here. So we're going to call this one Plump, and we're going to call that one Stout, and we're going to call that one Triangle, and we're going to call that one Circle. Okay, so the circle and triangle, as well as its morph, and then these ones, they're going to go down here. So we'll put it down there. And now we can make a new morph. So this is a new layer here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add another morph node and go between the two existing morphs. So we've got this morph, and actually apparently we have a path node coming out of it. I am not sure why we have that path node. If I delete that path node, does anything happen? Nope, it doesn't. Okay, so that I think just got extraneously added by the tool. When I was using the path tool, it added it. Okay, so the output of this can go here, and the output of the other morph, where is it? Here it is. Does that transform get used? Nope, that one also got extraneously added. That can go here. And we're going to add this by pinning it so I can now control it from here. Okay, so now we are morphing here to here. And of course, we still have the topology problem here. We always got to deal with the topology. But I suppose we can go ahead and inspect those and see what the topology is for both of them. How do I want to proceed? I guess I'm going to hide some of these so that we're not quite dealing with the same level of noisiness here. Actually, no, I'm going to clean up the graph a little bit first so I can keep track of things. going to keep those separated. And then this top morph that morphs between the morphs, that's going to be separated. And that. Okay, we've got those all mostly lined up at this point. Okay, so out of both of these morphs, we want to check their topology, and in order to do that, we need to be able to edit the path at that point in time. So that's here, and then as well as here. So now we can go ahead and open that layer, or click on that layer and see how many points it has. I'm going to confirm all of these don't have any extraneous points. They probably shouldn't, because I don't think they would have been added by something like a Boolean operation, but just double checking here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that was this one, and then the other one here, we have that. And that transform is not used. Okay, so then we go to this bottle, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so yeah, we are dealing with an odd number in this case, which is a bit annoying. Maybe it is better. I guess probably the best option here is doing the same thing we did earlier with the bottom of that bottle. Unfortunately, the topology is a bit of a complication that we have to deal with at this point. It'll probably get better as we improve the algorithms, but yeah. Okay. Let's, I suppose, back up and move over to hiding the morph, and then just focusing. I'm going to hide all the layers and focus just on the triangle bottle and the circle bottle. And we had controlled the circle bottle originally by adding that point and that point, but let's go ahead and delete the bottom point. And then in this case, the circle bottle still kind of needs to rest on the floor, but I suppose we can do something to make it a little bit more circular still. That's a little more reasonable. And then this star. So for the star, we, I guess, need to maybe get rid of that as well. So we just deleted a point on that one. We're going to delete a point on this one. That does end up with, I think, leaving us with 8 points in total, and then the other pair of bottles end up with 10 points. So we might want to add another point in somewhere here. So I guess we can maybe just do it like here and here. And then in this case, we might do it, I don't know, here. Actually, yeah, that's good. Here and here. So I think we have the correct number here with all these points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and now if we go unhide the other pair of bottles. Then we have, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Okay, so now we got our morph. And we're going to want to find what offset allows us to have the... There we are. That looks correct, mostly. Okay, so we have to change that one's offset, I believe, because we changed the number of points, and we do need to fix its offset to line up the correct number of points. So we do line up the area around the stem of the bottle, but we don't seem to be lining up the other ones. I'm just going to track where those points end up going. Okay, I see the problem. So we end up having one here, but we don't have one here. How'd that happen? That's interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We might have some extraneous points hidden behind, possibly. There we go. Delete that one. That's going to always cause problems. So it seems like right now we have a problem with the Boolean operation leaving behind some extraneous points, which can cause some confusion, as we can see here. Definitely something that we'll need to fix. Okay, so we got this morph still acting a little weird. Double check the number of points here. Might be cool if we added a node that can count the number of points and display it as a string. That would be interesting. And very doable. We could definitely add that. Should be pretty easy. Where was I? Circle bottle. Aha, another one. Delete that. Okay. Does that fix the problems? Okay, now we can go back to this, put the offset back to 0. Still acting a little weird. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By the way, if you're wondering, I can simply right-click while I'm dragging a point, and it cancels that drag, which makes it very handy for not having to hit undo after every time I drag something, for example. Okay, it is a little weird to me that it is choosing the morph algorithm is not quite respecting the topology here in a way that maps them contiguously. Like we'd expect that one and that one to have the same number away from that one and that one, because that's 1, 2, 3 away on that side and 1, 2, 3 away on that side. And over here on this one, 1, 2, and then these ones would be 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 away. So if we go back to the morph, oh wait, do we have another path node? That's why we have another path node. That's what's always throwing in the confusion. Or not. Let's double check that this morph is okay. that has to go there. That was the reason. So we fixed the topology, but I got confused because I didn't realize we weren't actually using that data. That data was being run past that node, but not actually feeding into the morph node, because the morph node was receiving it before we fixed the topology. So now I've made it so it works after. Let's go check the other one as well. Okay, here's another case where, wait, no, sorry, that's all good. Okay, I think, do we have a better working morph now? No, we don't. Oh, no, okay, you can still see we seem to have duplicated points there, so for the circle bottle, let's be very careful where we're modifying it, but we do have yes, where are we modifying that? Circle bottle. Oh, yeah, we're still using the wrong connection there. Okay, now we have the correct topology on both of them. So this morph node is receiving inputs after these path nodes where I deleted the duplicate points. And it's still, okay, yeah, we just have to change the offset now. Ah, okay, there we go. Much, much better. And then we can go check the other one. And that's looking good. Okay, so now that must mean that our final morph here, if we can get the correct offset for it, it will also there we go. All right, that's very cool. We have an offset for that. Okay, so now here's the cool trick. If I simply go hide all these layers except for the final morph, that morph between the two morphs, now we've just got one shape, but we've got these 3 pinned parameters. And although they do move, which means I'll just need to line them all up to prevent it from moving, we can actually morph between all these different bottle types. That's kind of a cool trick. I'm going to make an alignment grid. Actually, I'm just going to put like a table down. I'll just sort of say like that very narrow table is where we're going to try and set all these bottles on top of. Okay, so if I unhide this, I need to hide all the layers except for that table, which I'm going to lock. I can click on that lock button and it becomes locked. I can't move it, but I want to go one by one and just center all these tables. And I can also tell it to center with that possible. No, I have to unlock it first. Okay, I can center them like that. Actually, I should probably make it bigger. Center it. Now, because I made it bigger, it will always say the bottle has to be inside the center of the table. So center that. Now hide that one, go to this one, and yeah, double check that it was on top. Yeah, it's just sitting on the ground there. Next one, hide the circle, and we're gonna center the triangle. Put the triangle bottle on top of the table, and then center it like that. Now I can hide the triangle again, and enable the stout bottle. Put it on top of the table like that, and also center it. Okay, and last bottle, we've got the plump bottle. We're going to put that on top of the table, center it. Okay, they're all basically sitting in the same spot. Hide the table, hide the plump bottle, and re-enable the morph. Okay, so now they're still moving around. That's because again, yes, the transform tool, just like the path tool, does end up inserting that transform node after the morphs happen. So yeah, we just added this transform node. That may have been the only transform node that got added. But basically we want to wire that up like that. So now we're actually transforming, we're morphing the shape that has already been put into the correct location. And double check that none of these needed to do the same thing. move that way up there. Okay, so we've got that bottle morph. We've got that bottle morph. And we've got one more bottle morph that is not working. So that should be this one. It's taking that morph, and it's taking that morph. And we should be seeing the combination of the two. So why are we not? That is the next debugging step, I suppose. Oh, actually, it looks like we are. Okay, so it's actually... I'm going to go hide this one for the moment and look at the other ones. So if I look at that morph, this morph is the one that's not working. So that is, okay, this morph. And that's because it's receiving input from here and here. All right. So let's go ahead and figure out why that's not working out exactly as we expect it to. So if we enable, yeah, we have just this layer enabled. And this is the morph we're looking at here. We're seeing why that one is not producing any result that we expect. Oh, wait, sorry, it is. But then if we go to... So yeah, that one is. And then if we hide that one, show this one, we now take a look at this morph, and that one is working as well. Okay. So hide that one. Oh, yeah, so the shape that we're currently on is we're on the triangle, and we are on the plump bottle. And then the combination of these two should be, okay, at the moment it's a triangle. Ah, okay, so it is working. Okay, it was always working. I just confused myself. So we have 3 dimensions of control now. Basically, we can go between plump and stout, or whatever we call the ones that have a taller stem. And we can go between triangle and circle. Oh, okay, the whole reason I confused myself was because we were looking at, we were only looking at this part of the morph. But if I put it in the middle, now we're going between more of a circle and more of a tall shape. And here we're going between more of a triangle and a circular kind of shape. Okay, so we've got our different bottles. That's kind of cool. And yeah, awesome. Okay, so I suppose the next thing we can do is just start styling it, because we actually care about this final output. So we're going to say the final bottle. And then these other ones, they kind of just don't even need to be seen anymore. Of course, we could go like group them and something if we wanted to. Yeah, I'll go ahead and group them. And we'll call this intermediate bottles. And I think we can, yeah, we can make a table, I suppose. Yeah, what would that look like? well, I suppose we can look at our reference here. Do I want to work on the table? Actually, maybe I think I would work more on the liquids first. Okay, so I would say let's work on the liquids. So I think an interesting thing would have having another slider for the filling up of the bottle. But let's first work on just styling the bottle to have any appearance at all. So all we need to do here is add a fill node and then pick. So we're going to do the empty bottle. So I guess that's going to be kind of a sort of that color. And maybe we'll make it a gradient actually. And a radial gradient will go between that and I suppose that and that. Use the gradient tool over here and line this up how we'd like it. Make it look a little bit more dimensional. Yeah, I'd say that's probably fine. Okay, now we can also go and add a stroke node. And that lets us control. So for example, in these cases, they sort of had no stroke, but they also sort of had that stroke. But I don't necessarily want to just copy from one bottle. There are a bunch of other examples here. I'd say the common theme that we're seeing here is that there's always a separation between the liquid and the bottle, but I actually think I want to make that part of the fill color. And I'm going to instead offset this. So basically what I think I'm going to do is set it to no stroke and make it look like that. And next I'm going to work on the liquid. So let's make a new layer for the liquid. And this is going to basically be the same output as we had with the bottle, but we're going to go ahead and inset it. So like this, but now we're going to go and add a, I think it's called offset path node, and we're going to give it a negative value so it insets the path. Actually, that might be a positive value. And then change the fill color to be the color of our maybe our green liquid. Oh, I'm changing the existing node, so it's actually changing it for both of them. I need to make a new fill node here. Actually, I could duplicate the other node. That way I keep the existing gradient, but I can just change the color. And we're not going to worry about that little artifact, which results from the shape kind of getting inset through itself. We're just going to fill up the bottle from the bottom to top, and that's actually never going to be shown. So we have this line here. That's going to basically be our fill level. I suppose we could act like that. Maybe move it down a little bit so it fully covers the whole height of the bottle. And what we're basically going to do is take a Boolean between the liquid and this shape. I'm going to move it up enough so we can see it. And that liquid will it's that one. Actually, I'm going to reverse the order though. That way I keep, because the top one is the one that gives the resulting styling. There. Although I guess the thing we didn't quite want is the fact that the gradient changes as a result of this. But I can go ahead and move this up and see what it looks like as we move it up. So I'm gonna, I guess in this case I could just get rid of the gradient, go back to a solid color of gradient basically. And then for a bottle, we can take a look at some references. I guess in these cases, they have a kind of a 3D effect here, sort of a top-down view or a slightly angled view where we see that. So that might be an interesting effect to try and replicate, but it could be a little tricky. Let me think about some ways to do that, because we can always go up and down with the liquid level. Okay, so if we took the bounding box, it would work up to the part where it gets shorter. But then, okay, so if we split this up into 3 pieces, I'm just thinking about ways we can kind of get the total width of everything. So if we are between this part and this part, the bounding box would tell us how wide to make it. Then if we're above here, we can basically go in the reverse and see how far we are from here to see what our level would be. And then finally, if we get to the stem part, then that would be another part where we would basically just always keep the same width. And the goal here would be figuring out what is the width of the stem, the width of the liquid. But that may not be the most optimal way to do it, because as we can control the bottle, actually that's a little bit frustrating that it's doing that. I think it might be an artifact of the algorithm, the Boolean operation algorithm breaking when it comes to those little top pieces. Yeah, that's gonna be a little bit of a problem until we can get that bug fixed, because it works for some bottle shapes, but not for other bottle shapes. I wonder if there's any other Boolean modes I can use as a workaround. So is that going to switch between top and bottom? It might. If it's stable, I could use it if I just reverse it. Okay, so as long as I don't go all the way to the left, okay, so it looks like the artifacts occur when you go all the way to the left. So I think I'm actually just going to control that a little bit differently. I'm going to make 3 number nodes, but I'm going to clamp them to be just a little less than the full 0 value and the full 1 value. Okay, so if I go with a percentage value, and I actually maybe have 3 of them because we need 3 of them, and we first multiply, divide by 100. Actually, the way I'll do that is I'll add 1. So I'm going to add 1%. That way I can never go below 1%. And then I'm going to divide, rather than by 100, I'm going to divide by 101. Or is it 102? Yeah, 102. That way, no, it'd be 101. That way I never can get below something just under 100, just under 1. Okay, so those are going to be feeding the morph values. So instead of dragging those there, I'm going to feed. Oh yeah, I exposed that one. So I exposed the time value there. Let's expose the time value here. And then lastly, the other morph is here. Expose that. Okay, so top one goes to that one. Middle one goes to the middle one. And bottom one goes to the bottom one. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and unpin these. But I'm going to go and pin that one, and that one. So now we're never getting to exactly 0 and exactly 100%, and it seems to reduce the frequency of these Boolean operation artifacts that will have to be fixed as the algorithm is improved. And then if I can go ahead and reverse that back to this, no. Okay, so if I go back to, I suppose, this one, wait, no. Let's see how stable that is. Not quite perfect, but it's better. But of course the liquid is in the top half, which we could say is magical, but we could also simply do that, I believe. Yeah, unfortunately the stable Boolean operations are not quite cutting it for what we need for this project. That will have to be worked on. Well, I guess if we can't quite get an animation to work, we'll at least get this to work here. We might just have to do screenshots. My hope was originally to do an animation. Maybe if we can improve those Boolean operation bugs quickly, get that fixed, then that might allow us to do a video of this, but I think I'm just going to otherwise have to do screenshots. Okay, so let's figure out now a way that would support all bottle types. The stems do have different heights, but in this case, they connect at roughly the same location where the stem connects to the bottle. But in this case, it goes to a higher height. And then in that case, the stem entirely disappears. I'm just thinking about how I'd want to go and make kind of that elliptical shape that shows the top portion of the bottle. I might also just not do that. There's a lot of other interesting things to work on. One of them, for example, could be animating the waviness there. So I think what I'm going to do is, yeah, okay. I'm going to make another rectangle. I'm going to add a node called sample points. And this is going to place a bunch of, oh no, not sample points, scatter points. This is going to end up placing a bunch of these. And I basically just want to increase the diameter enough that we only have basically one row of this. And my goal here is to generate some wavy effects. Make it not tall enough to fit more than one row of this. Okay, so we've generated some waviness. Now I can also go and add a spline node, spline from points, and that turns the waviness into something a bit more like that. And I think we can tame the waviness if we simply reduce the height further. So yeah, there we are. So now we've got some procedural waviness that is not really making overhangs. And I think we can go ahead and make that all kind of a bit smaller at this point. Unfortunately, the scaling seems to be a little broken. Transforms, that's a transforms issue. That's one of the things we'll be working on. Improving is reducing the bugs associated with that. Well, I guess I'm going to have to redo that because the undo also kind of broke. Definitely still in alpha, but generally you can do some cool things with it at the same time. Okay, so again we have the spline from points, reduce the height to get rid of those points that are causing it to be on top of other ones, and we have this, make it less wide. And less tall. So okay, this is roughly the height we now want for, okay. This is, I'm gonna add another transform node so that doesn't keep breaking. Now I can move it around. Okay. So we have this. And I think what I would like to do is see if I can my goal here would be to extend down a shape below it or above it, where this kind of becomes the high water mark without having to actually pick the first point and pick the last point, because I would like to be able to actually continue to change the seed on this, because I can always change the seed and get different effects like that. Or even, continue to animate it like that. So I might be able to use this as a way of cutting a rectangle. Let's see what would happen if I give that rectangle a color, just so I can see it, and take this and cut that. Let's see if I can get any of these to behave the way I'd like. Unfortunately, doesn't look like it. Okay, maybe not that approach then. Let's see what other ways I might be able to use the node catalog to add some shapes above. I think I'll just browse and see what we have available. Oh yeah, we could use repeat. That would be cool. Okay, that's what I'll do. So we'll take this shape, and I think we're just gonna, well, actually, is that gonna work? Well, I'll give it a try. So I'm going to do a repeat here. Tell it to only repeat downwards. As we can see here, we can control the distance, and we can control how many. And we're going to have to get rid of the fill. That kind of looks cool. Maybe we're just going to go for some kind of effect like that. And if I just Boolean that with itself, what would happen? Not what we want. Okay. If I undo and put that fill back, let's even give it a color so I can clearly see what's going on here. So my whole goal here is, if I can manage, I'd like to get this wavy effect to remain procedural, which means I can't just manually go connect some lines to the left side and the right side, because the points would change in number and we'd lose control over which ones we're connected to. Pretty sure that's the case. Maybe I can actually just test it. So my speculation is that if we change the seed, that's not going to stay. Yeah, that's unfortunately not staying, because every time we do that, the IDs of each of those points change. Okay, but if we re-enable that repeat, no, unfortunately I don't think repeat is going to work for us. Let's go back to browsing the catalog again. Offset path. I wonder what that would do for us. Just experimenting here. That does some interesting things. I wonder if I can use those in any useful way. So if I look at both of these together, the offset version and the normal version, and let's say I combine them together, we could do that by saying flatten vector elements. Now we're taking both of them, converting them into a single vector shape, as opposed to two groups, two different items in a group, two different separate vector shapes in a group. Okay. Now if I Boolean that, unfortunately it still does not behave as I'd like. So it'd be cool if we had some way of bridging these. But at the moment we don't have any kind of bridge node. That would be a useful thing to add though. We do have a bounding box. Wonder if I can finagle that in a way that would help us. So if I put the bounding box in, that of course goes around all of it. No, I don't think any of those options are going to work. Oh, but solidify stroke, that might do what we want. Okay, I'm going to go back a few steps, delete that, delete that, delete that. Okay. if I go modify I'm going to delete the fill because we're not using it anymore. But if I take the stroke and increase the thickness a bunch, now this is becoming its own shape. And if I can basically just take a rectangle, that's always going to be below that shape, and get it to cut it out, that might give us the profile we want. So cut that. We wanted our shape. Now we can try and Boolean those. Okay, that is the shape we're looking for. Because now I believe I can continue to change this seed, the scatter point seed, and we end up with different ones. I'm going to pin that scatter points. Okay, we are sticking with the theme of November and making everything we can entirely procedural. So now we have different water lines like that. I think I'm going to go with an even thicker stroke, just to be extra careful. We're kind of just using essentially that as a random number generator in a sense, like randomly scattering a bunch of points around. And then what we can do is we can actually add a spline from points and oh no, that was added to the wrong spot. There we are. Kind of. I think what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to do a sample points. What this is going to do is place points all around it, and I can choose the density of where to place those points. And that kind of normalizes it, puts the points a little bit more of a predictable set of locations. Then I can say spline from points, and that will smooth it out. Because I'm basically trying to go for a level of water or level of potion that looks decent. Okay. I can now go ahead and replace this rectangle with this other one. I guess I'm going to have to turn it upside down, R180, to rotate it 180 degrees, and now put that inside of here and delete that one. Okay, very cool. Now I can just move that up and down. That's neat. The original shape, I suppose, should probably be taller. So where was that shape originally? Maybe I'll just control it manually like this. We wanted the original rectangle, this rectangle, to be taller to start out. Okay, so now the resulting rectangle is, yeah, it's taller, and that's going to fit the entire set of all the different types of bottles that we can interpolate between. Okay, so I will add another numerical parameter here, just like these ones. Did we lose one? Where'd that go? They're overlapping. Okay, another percentage value. This percentage is going to be the height of all the liquid. And we want that to control the transform for the liquid. So I'm going to put another transform there so we just have it controlling only the liquid height. And that liquid height transform goes here. And I'm going to say, change the translation. We're going to now, we want a single value controlling the y-axis. So we're going to call this vector2 value. This allows us to build a vector2 value, and I'm going to expose only the y input. We're going to keep the other one as 0. So at the moment it's doing a 0, 0, but we're going to control it from there. Now if I change this, it's going to go between there and there, so we just need to multiply it. And I think we also need to multiply by a negative value. So let's go with negative 200. Sometimes it doesn't want to drop in place. Oh, negative 2, not 200, because we're already, a percentage value is already between 0 and 100. Okay, so that's a better range. We just keep changing the number until it's the right height, and we also need to add another add node. And this is going to offset it. So when we go to 0%, we're going to change the offset down to like here. So we'll call that 0% full. And then that will be 100% full. Okay, so now we can just drag a percentage value and everything updates. And if we go ahead and change the water, we can change the water level like that. And we can also change the bottle like this. That all looks good. Yeah. Okay, very, very cool. I'm liking that. All right, what else do we need to add now? Let's go back and look at our reference. I suppose a very simple thing here would be to add some specular effects. I think the way I'm going to do that is to create kind of a crescent shape here. Should be pretty simple. Just like that. And then it's going to be booleaned with something that changes with the bottle itself. Okay, so something that changes with the bottle. I'm going to make a layer for that. That layer we just added is going to be driven by wherever we take the offset path node from. We're going to basically do that same thing again. A little bit more node cleanup while we're at it. Okay, so we want the morphed bottle output. That's this one. It goes here to the offset path. So we basically want another offset path. I'm just going to duplicate that and take that same bottle output and bring it up to this new offset path. And we're going to feed that into here. And we're also going to give it a new fill, just so we can see it. Black is fine. Maybe we'll give it some transparency though. And change the offset path amount to, yeah, when we look at some examples of the specular, they seem to be kind of in the middle, I suppose. Yeah, something in the middle or something like that. So I guess maybe along those lines there. Okay, so now we have our shape. This is the layer here, and we have the one we just drew, and we basically just want to union them. That is intersect them. And now we can actually still change the color. I'm going to remove the stroke, and the fill is white, but we'll give it some transparency. We can either do it like that or like this with the transparency slider here. And yeah, that's reasonable. And we can still always go change the original shape. That's good. How does that look across different shapes now? Yeah, that's reasonable across all the different bottle shapes. Cool. Okay, what other effects do we want? We could have a stopper, or at least make the top look a little nicer. Actually, a very easy way to make the top look a little nicer is for all of those. Actually, before I make the top look a little nicer, I'm going to make the node graph look a little nicer. Yeah. Okay, so we were going to look at making the top a little nicer looking. We might just be able... no, that unfortunately changes the topology. Okay, we're not going to take that approach. Oh, yeah, if we do it for all of them, it should be fine. So I'm going to hide the final bottle. I'm going to call that liquid. And I'm going to call that specular. Okay, circle, triangle, stout, and plump. Every one of those now is going to get here's the bottle, or here's the stopper, or the stem, I mean. How does that look? Probably want to go with like 0.2. So we're going to do that for the others. Okay, undo that. Apparently you didn't like that. I think I'm just going to go through and do it to all of them real quick and see if it ends up being fine, well, without even previewing the output. So we're not even rendering this at the moment. We're just going to go through and do that so it doesn't do that thing where it seemed to have decided to crash. Okay, 0.2. 0.2. 0.2 and 0.2. So we'll see if... Okay, unfortunately it is crashing whenever that happens, so that's a bug we'll have to work on. In the meantime, I'm just going to go back to not attempting to do that. So change that back to 0, since we saw that that worked. Okay, so we're back where we were. Just thinking about some things we could do to clean up the overall shape. If I wanted to round out those corners, I suppose one slightly hacky option I have available to myself would be I could take the final bottle, do the sample points, tell it to sample them pretty evenly, like maybe, and then we can do a spline. Actually, this could be kind of a cool like low poly effect as well. But yeah, actually that spline makes it worse. But I do kind of like what we're going for. It looks a little bit like a low poly effect. Kind of even that out by offsetting where it's allowed to start. That is kind of a cool effect. I like that. We could maybe do it to the other ones as well. Do it to the specular. I could just duplicate it. That got a little bit messier. Put that back where it was. Now, as a reminder, we're of course intentionally leaning into nodes because this is, after all, the first prompt for November, but if you were doing ordinary artwork, you probably wouldn't be attempting to make everything so node-based. You would normally be using those tools that we can interact with in the viewport, and it would just do things automatically for you. But this is a very good way of putting to the test the robustness of the overall node system, which is doing a lot better now than it has in the past, but of course still may use some minor, maybe medium-sized improvements to the various robustness issues with the algorithms that crash or produce those unstable results. Actually, I have a really interesting idea about how to get the waviness of the water. Although, no, unfortunately, I'm gonna prototype that. So we had that thing with the wavy water. I'm thinking about a way we might be able to get the wavy water to actually animate. Okay, so the way we did that is we say scatter points. I'm just going to do kind of an isolated test case here and see if that might be feasible. Change the density so it's more like... That is the one thing that's frustrated me most often, is when the transform breaks, undo also does not seem to be able to come back to it. We'll have to put some time into finding that. Finding the cause of that. Okay. So we have that, and then we're going to remove the fill and spline from points, smooth it out. Reduce the height to smooth it out further. Okay, so we have this. And the general idea is that as the seed changes, it sort of just randomly goes to the next thing. So what I would like to do is duplicate this. Go to seed 0, duplicate it, go to seed 1. So now we have two of them with different seeds. I would like to see if it's possible to morph between these two. I'm going to add a morph node here and try and simply morph the results. Okay. Not exactly perfect, but also not so bad. And because it's wavy water, I think we can get away with it. Change the seed again. Let's see if that was an artifact of just that one seed. Okay, actually, no, I think it's fine. That's very cool. So what I'd like to do, and I'm going to keep prototyping this now, I would like to add a number value, and the seed I will expose. I'm going to add 1 to the second one. Okay, so here's the seed. the +0, +1, and +2. And then we're going to expose these seeds here. +0, +1, +2. Okay, so that allows us now to change this number and see what happens. All right, that's very interesting here. So we've got some morphing going on. Actually, we might not need that third one. I think it might be as simple as removing it. Yeah, okay. I can pin this one as well now that it's another number we can control. That's pretty cool. So we got something more or less resembling water moving. And if we want to make it a little more stable, all we need to do now is go ahead and add a sample points. So this is going to be giving it a little bit more predictability to where those points are, and then spline from points. Okay. So now it's not going to look like it's, oh. Yeah, it's decent. Although actually I don't think that was necessary. I can probably get rid of that and it's going to look the same. Okay, yeah. So we're going to go back to where we had the water defined. The liquid here. That's this area. I'm just going to move it down so I can reference it and maybe steal pieces of it, because we're not going to use that test one. We're going to switch it over to this other one that we actually already have. So we have the scatter points here. Okay, so I'm going to basically move this down. Everything up to this point is the one we're going to be using. So change that seed and then put the seed in here. And then we're going to do another one. So we're going to duplicate. Actually, we're just going to duplicate the scatter points, reuse that input because we can just reuse it, fine. Feed that in. And then we're going to duplicate the splines from points, I think. Oh yeah, we do have to do the morph still. Yeah, okay, so now we can do the morph. And I think I can actually just reuse it by taking this output, putting it here, this output, putting it here, and this output, putting it here. And then I'm gonna get rid of that layer since we're no longer using it. Yeah, I think we'll leave it like that in terms of cleanliness. Okay. So, does that now work? It does. Excellent. Aside from a little bit of occasional glitchiness that seems to happen. I think if we just widen that this shape here, then that should be fine. Widen it a whole bunch. Okay, it seems to almost always work, but in those cases where it doesn't work, that might just be I think the seed is just doing something a little interesting in that case. And then when we have this little thing on the side, where does that come from? Okay, so that thing. Oh, I see. It comes from probably what is like a self-intersection. So if we look at this layer here, I see we do end up with that shape. And since we rotate the whole thing, flip it upside down, it ends up being that other shape. Okay, well, we might be able to clean that up simply by booleaning it with itself. The Boolean operation works on group data, but we don't have a group, so we actually have to just say to group, and that turns it into a group, and then then the Boolean operation goes from the group of multiple items into one item again. Okay, does that do what we want it to do though? I don't know. We might just... Okay, so yeah, what happens when we do that? Makes it worse. Okay, we'll delete those. I think we'll just live with it. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be something to prove the point, something to act as a proof of concept. Okay, well, I kind of think maybe we should go back to the smoothed out shape overall. Since we were doing that sample points, that would make it look a little bit more jagged, but I'm actually thinking spline from points, put that in here. Never mind, I don't like the spline from points. Yeah, okay. I think we'll lean into that stylization, which means I can probably do the same stylization on the other ones. So for example, the liquid, stick a sample points in there. And we can change the density. Should be reasonably high poly, but not just enough we can kind of see it looks a little bit like it's meant to be low poly. And then we can do the same for that sheen, that specular. So I can either add it in here or click on the layer, which is this layer, and say sample points. There we are. Now it has that polygonal look. Change the density until we like it. Make it so it has adaptive spacing so it evens it out perfectly. I think that's good. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how this works on all the other numbers, all the other sizes. Sorry, I mean all the other variations. So if we go, okay, that's our percentage full. Then we have our water line, which does kind of break things with the polygonal effect. Actually, no, it's fine. We just got to go really slow with it. I'm actually going to slow it down. Okay, I'm going to divide it by a large number, maybe like 50 or something. Okay, now it kind of, besides the occasional glitchy pieces, it sort of looks like it's alive, it's moving. Cool, I'll stick with that. Okay, the next effect is, uh-oh. Yes, I told it to sample the points at a very, very close density, and I have caused it to take forever to compute that. We'll go back and try again. We might have lost like 30 seconds of work because it auto-saves every 30 seconds, so I think I just had to put that divide back where it was supposed to be. Okay, I'm going to also, I think, unpin that because we no longer need to change it procedurally. Oh wait, what was that? Yeah, it was just those scatter points ones. I didn't need those. So this is the water level. This is the animation to the water. This is one of the 3 axes of control for our bottle change. Yeah, I think we're getting pretty close to calling this done. Let's see how it looks without those polygonal effects if we don't want to make it look low poly. So if we hide these sample points nodes, is it just those ones? I think it's just those ones. Hide those. Now, if we look at the same thing again, oops. We've got our water level, got the animation, which isn't perfect, but mostly works out. Now I'm going to slow that down even more. That liquid is going to be very, very slowly moving. Okay, that's nice. Now we have the bottle changing. Oh no, how'd that happen? So the one thing that comes to mind is it would be kind of cool if I could morph between the different bottle variations on a single slider instead of having to control 3 separate sliders. Because at the moment we have essentially 3 axes of control. We have the morph between those shape-based ones. We have the morph between like the big bulbous one and the tall one. And then we have the morph between those 2 morphs. And I'm thinking it might be nice if we could kind of compact those, if not onto 3, from 3 down to 1, maybe at least 3 down to 2. Because at the moment, as we see, this has no effect when that one above it is at 100%, and this one has this one has the full effect. Or does this one just never have effect? That's weird. Okay, so that's triangle to bulbous. Oh, I have them backwards. I'm going to unpin those and then repin them because I think I had them backwards. At the moment, they get pinned in the order that you pin them. They show up in this panel in that order. So that's 3 axes. But it would be nice if we could basically control the original 2 on a single slider. And then that other one on a second slider. Trying to think if that makes sense. Because at the moment, this is 1. This one has no effect at the moment, and this one now has effect. Okay, so the bottom one here controls whether we have any effect on the one above or the one below. So how would we describe that mathematically? Like, what's the relationship between this one and this one? So like if we maybe, like what if we just use the same slider for both? Would that work? Yeah, we're basically trying to collapse 3 dimensions down to 2 dimensions. Well, on the other hand, it might not be worth the time to do this. Maybe we should set the minimum fill level a little higher though. So where's that fill level? I guess that is here. Okay, that's a safer minimum fill level. And probably lower the maximum fill level as well. We could probably mitigate those glitches a little bit by forcing it to be inside the bottle. Oh, well, we actually already do that. um, yeah, we'll stick with that one. Okay, well, I think we don't have to make everything perfect here, so we'll probably call this reasonably good. Actually, we should be able to definitely force it to stay inside the bottle. That's the liquid. That's the liquid level. That's the bottle. So if we have another Boolean, but this time it has to be always inside the bottle directly. And now we say they have to be, there we are. They have to be inside each other like that. Okay, so we'll see if that helps the problem of the glitchy problem, the glitchy liquid. It kind of just disappears a little bit more frequently than before. That's not good. Yeah, well, I think it's actually more robust with it never being outside. Delete those. And we're back to how we were, I believe. Okay, I think we are calling that good. We have control over the liquid level. We have control over the water animation. We have control over the bottle shape with these 3 parameters. And I think that is basically all we need for our Alchemist workshop, our Alchemist lab. Okay, that covers day 1 and day 2. So I will be back for more streaming for Sunday or Monday for an orc temple. I'll have to do some thinking about what that will look like. But in the meantime, try out some nodes. Try out November with Graphite, and hopefully this has also been instructive as well as neat. So, with that said, I will end the stream now. But thanks for tuning in.